Sweetie, people like your daddy don't pay for first-class meals. Maybe try asking for peanuts and Coach?
The words slice through the cabin air like broken glass. Victoria Sinclair doesn't whisper them, she delivers them with the confidence of someone who believes her uniform grants her the right to judge souls by skin color. Her perfectly manicured fingers tap against her hip blonde hair, pulled back in an immaculate bun that matches her flawless makeup. The fitted navy uniform hugs her curves in all the right places, but her cold blue eyes hold nothing but contempt. In exactly 42 minutes, the man she's humiliating will make one phone call that grounds this entire airline indefinitely. Every word she's speaking is being live-streamed to 15,000 viewers and climbing. She has no idea. The 8-year-old girl standing in the aisle doesn't flinch. Isabella Rivers, dressed in a bright pink dress with matching ribbons in her natural hair, looks up at the flight attendant with confused brown eyes. She's holding a children's activity book in one small hand and clutching her father's larger one with the other. But the nice lady at the gate said I could have the chicken nuggets meal, Isabella says quietly, her voice carrying the innocent honesty that only children possess. She said it was included with our tickets. Victoria's laugh is sharp-cutting. Oh, honey, I'm sure someone told you lots of things. Adults say whatever they need to say to keep people happy. But this is first class. We have standards. Marcus Rivers, 43, stands beside his daughter with the kind of stillness that suggests volcanic calm. He's dressed simply dark jeans, navy polo shirt, casual loafers. Nothing about his appearance screams wealth or power. His deep brown skin is unmarked by stress lines despite the pressure building behind his dark eyes. To anyone watching, he looks like exactly what Victoria assumes a man who somehow stumbled into seats he couldn't afford. What none of them know is that Marcus Rivers is the CEO and majority shareholder of SkyLine Airways, the very airline they're flying on, the company that employs every person currently serving them, the corporation worth $3.2 billion that he built from a single route between Miami and Atlanta 15 years ago. But today, he's just a father taking his daughter on their first trip together since her mother's death 6 months ago. Today, he's learning firsthand about the culture problems his quarterly reports have been hinting at for over a year. Before we dive deeper into this story that will leave you speechless, I need to ask, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. If you believe every child deserves dignity regardless of their skin color, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Trust me, what happens next will restore your faith in justice. Now, let me take you inside SkyLine Airways Flight 447, where discrimination met its match at 35,000 feet. The Boeing 757 sits at Gate C12 of Miami International Airport, its engines humming quietly as passengers settle into their seats. It's a Thursday afternoon, 2:30 p.m., and Flight 447 to Atlanta is running precisely on time. The first-class cabin holds 18 passengers today, a mix of business travelers, vacationing couples, and one father-daughter pair that's about to change everything. Marcus had booked these tickets under assumed names Michael Robinson and Izzy Robinson as part of his quarterly mystery passenger program. For 3 years, he's been flying his own airline incognito, experiencing the service through customers' eyes. Previous flights had revealed minor issues: slow drink service, outdated entertainment systems, occasional turbulence announcements. Nothing like what he's witnessing now. Isabella tugs gently on his hand. Daddy, I'm getting hungry. When do you think they'll bring the food? Her question is innocent normal. The response it triggers is anything but. Victoria, who had been arranging magazines in the overhead compartments with theatrical precision, stops mid-motion. Her head turns slowly like a predator sensing movement. She's been watching this family since they boarded 20 minutes ago, her disapproval growing with each passing moment. In her mind, she's already constructed their entire story, father struggling to impress his daughter with seats he can't afford, probably using miles or some discount program to access first class. People like them always want something for nothing. "Excuse me," Victoria says, her voice carrying across 3 rows. Several passengers look up from their phones and magazines. "Are you aware that children's meals require advance ordering in first class?" Marcus's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "I specifically ordered the children's meal when I booked the tickets 2 weeks ago. It should be in your system." Victoria pulls out her tablet with exaggerated patience, her long nails clicking against the screen. She makes a show of scrolling, pursing her glossy pink lips. "I'm not seeing any special meal request for—" She pauses, consulting the passenger manifest. "Robinson." The pause is deliberate, loaded with implication. She's not just checking records. She's establishing doubt about their legitimacy. "That's impossible," Marcus says evenly. "I have the confirmation email on my phone if you need to see it." Sir Victoria's voice takes on the tone of someone explaining simple concepts to someone. Simple confirmation emails can be altered. "What I need to see is valid payment confirmation for these seats and proof that you're authorized to be in first class." The cabin goes quiet. This isn't normal procedure, and everyone knows it. In seat 3B, Diego Martinez, a marketing executive for a Miami tech company, slowly reaches for his phone. Something about this interaction feels wrong, feels familiar in the worst possible way. His finger hovers over his camera app. Sarah Thompson, a blonde woman in her early 30s traveling with her 5-year-old son in seat 5A, glances nervously between Victoria and the Black family. Her own child is clutching a juice box that appeared without question, without verification, without drama. Captain James O'Brien's voice crackles over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been cleared for takeoff. Flight attendants, please prepare for departure." Victoria's smile is razor thin. "Sir, I'm going to need you to return to your assigned seat so we can complete our safety procedures. I'll address your meal concerns once we're airborne." "These are our assigned seats," Marcus replies, his voice gaining an edge that makes Isabella look up at him with concern. 1A and 1B. "Would you like me to show you our boarding passes?" "What I'd like." Victoria says loud enough now that passengers in rows 4 and 5 are openly staring is for you to understand that first class isn't a place for people to cause disruptions. If you can't afford the appropriate service level, perhaps coach would be more suitable for your family. The words hang in the air like smoke from a fire everyone can smell, but no one wants to acknowledge. Diego Martinez makes his decision and starts recording. Isabella, still holding her activity book, looks between the adults with growing confusion. She's 8 years old. She understands that the pretty lady with the fancy hair is angry, but she doesn't understand why. She hasn't done anything wrong. She asked for food politely the way her father taught her. She said please and thank you. She's wearing her best dress, the one they bought special for this trip. "Daddy," she whispers, tugging on Marcus's shirt. "Are we in trouble?" The question breaks something in Marcus's chest. His daughter, his brilliant, curious, loving daughter, who still cries sometimes when she misses her mother, is learning to doubt herself because a stranger decided their skin color determined their worth. "No baby," he says, kneeling down to meet her eyes. "We're not in trouble. We belong here just as much as anyone else." Victoria overhears and snorts softly. Belonging is earned, not claimed. The statement is a match thrown onto gasoline. Diego's phone is recording now, the red dot blinking as he captures audio and video of discrimination happening in real time. Sarah Thompson's hand covers her mouth in shock. Other passengers are pulling out their phones, some recording, others texting frantically. Marcus stands slowly, his full 6'2" height suddenly apparent. His voice, when he speaks, carries the authority of someone accustomed to being heard and obeyed, even though Victoria doesn't recognize it yet. "Ma'am, I need you to explain to me exactly which policy you're following that requires proof of payment after passengers have already boarded and been seated." Victoria's cheeks flush slightly. She knows she's improvising, making up procedures as she goes. But she's been getting away with this behavior for years, targeting passengers she doesn't think belong, creating uncomfortable situations that usually result in complaints going nowhere. The pretty blonde flight attendant's word against some troublemaker's accusation. "Sir, I don't appreciate your tone. If you continue to be confrontational, I'll have to call security." Confrontational. Marcus repeats, his voice still controlled but gaining volume. "I asked a policy question. My 8-year-old daughter is hungry, and you're refusing to serve her food she's entitled to while treating other children differently. How exactly is that not discrimination?" The word discrimination lands like a bomb in the first-class cabin. It's the word everyone was thinking but nobody wanted to say. It makes everything explicit, undeniable, recorded. Lisa Rodriguez, a junior flight attendant with 3 years of experience, emerges from the galley carrying a service tray. She's been watching this interaction with growing alarm, recognizing that Victoria has gone far beyond any legitimate policy enforcement. Lisa knows the rules, and nothing Victoria is doing follows them. "Is everything okay here?" Lisa asks, her Hispanic accent slight but noticeable. She looks between Victoria and the family with obvious concern. Victoria whirls on her colleague with fury in her eyes. "Lisa, please return to your station. I'm handling this situation." "But now," Lisa hesitates, glancing at Isabella's confused face and Marcus's tense posture. Every instinct tells her to intervene, but Victoria is senior staff and going against her has consequences. Still, Lisa makes a mental note of everything she's witnessing. Some things are more important than career advancement. Diego Martinez's live stream has attracted 3,000 viewers in the past 5 minutes. Comments are flooding in faster than he can read them, but the tone is unmistakable. Outraged support for the family demands to know which airline this is and which flight attendant is causing the problem. This is Diego Martinez reporting live from SkyLine Airways Flight 447, he says quietly into his phone. What you're witnessing is discrimination happening in real time. A black father and his 8-year-old daughter are being harassed for simply existing in first class. Victoria hears the word live stream, and her head snaps toward Diego with panic flashing across her features. "Sir, recording other passengers without consent is against federal aviation regulations." Actually, Diego responds calmly. "Recording in public spaces is perfectly legal, and this is newsworthy. The whole internet is watching this now. The viewer count on his stream climbs 3,000, 4,500, 6,200. Marcus places a protective hand on Isabella's shoulder as she presses closer to his leg, overwhelmed by the adult conflict swirling around her. He's made a career out of reading people, understanding motivations, finding solutions to complex problems. But right now, watching his daughter shrink into herself while a stranger attacks her dignity. He's fighting every paternal instinct that wants to unleash 15 years of business warfare on this woman. Instead, he chooses a different weapon: documentation. "Isabella, honey, can you tell me exactly what the lady at the gate told us about your meal?" Isabella looks up uncertainly, aware that her answer matters in ways she doesn't understand. "She said I could pick chicken nuggets or spaghetti and that it would come with apple slices and a cookie. She was really nice and she gave me extra coloring books. And what did you choose? Chicken nuggets, please." Isabella's voice gets smaller with each word. Marcus looks directly at Victoria. "My daughter ordered her meal in advance, exactly as your own policies require. What specific regulation allows you to refuse to serve food to a child who followed all proper procedures?" Victoria's confidence wavers. She's been making up rules as she goes, and Marcus is asking for chapter and verse. Her supervisor training covered difficult passengers, but it didn't prepare her for someone who actually knows airline regulations and isn't afraid to challenge her authority. "Sir, the issue isn't regulations. The issue is disruption. You're creating a scene that's making other passengers uncomfortable. By asking for the meal my daughter was promised, by refusing to understand your place." The words slip out before Victoria can stop them. They hang in the air like a confession recorded by 3 different cameras and witnessed by 18 first-class passengers. There's no walking them back, no explaining them away. My place. Marcus's voice drops to a whisper that somehow carries more threat than any shout could. Isabella tugs on his hand again. Daddy, what does she mean? Your place. Isn't our place right here in these seats out of the mouths of babes? The 8-year-old has cut straight to the heart of the issue with the brutal honesty of childhood. Her question exposes everything ugly about Victoria's assumptions, everything wrong with the treatment they're receiving. Sarah Thompson, who has been watching in horrified silence, finally finds her voice. This is disgusting. That little girl has done nothing wrong. Victoria turns on her with venom. Ma'am, I need you to mind your own business. This is my business. Sarah shoots back her own child, watching wide-eyed from beside her. We're all witnessing this. My son has his meal. He's had his juice, his cookies. He's white. She's black. That's the only difference. The observation is simple, factual, and devastating. Other passengers nod in agreement, murmuring support. The tide in the cabin is turning decisively against Victoria, but she's too angry, too committed to her course to recognize the danger. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain O'Brien's voice returns over the intercom. We're third in line for takeoff. We'll be wheels up in approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Victoria has 10 minutes to resolve this situation before they're airborne, before this becomes a federal incident, before her actions become the subject of Department of Transportation investigations and legal proceedings. She doesn't know it yet, but she's already past the point of no return. Diego's live stream has reached 10,000 viewers. Screenshots are being shared on Twitter and Facebook. The hashtag Flight447 is starting to trend in Miami. And Marcus Rivers, the man she's been humiliating for the past 15 minutes, is about to teach her exactly what happens when you mistake quiet strength for weakness. Isabella looks up at her father with trust and confusion warring in her 8-year-old eyes. Daddy, why doesn't the pretty lady like us? The question pierces through every defense Marcus has built, every professional calm he's maintained. His daughter shouldn't have to learn about hate like this. She shouldn't have to wonder if she's done something wrong simply by existing in the same space as people who look different from her. But maybe, just maybe, she's about to learn something else entirely, that dignity doesn't require permission, that justice doesn't always wait for convenient timing, and that sometimes the quiet person in the corner turns out to be exactly who you didn't want to mess with. The plane's engines grow louder, preparing for takeoff. But Victoria Sinclair's career is about to crash and burn before they ever leave the ground. Victoria Sinclair has been waiting 15 years for a moment like this. Not consciously, not with malicious planning, but with the slow-burning resentment of someone who's always believed the world owes her more than she's received. Standing in the aisle of first class, her perfectly contoured face flushed with the righteousness of someone who's never been truly challenged, she feels more powerful than she has in months. She adjusts her uniform jacket, the navy fabric stretching across her curves in a way that's always gotten her attention from male passengers and colleagues. Victoria learned early that beauty could open doors, but she discovered something else along the way. Authority could keep them open. And right now, facing down this black family who dared to question her, she feels more authoritative than ever. "Sir," she says, her voice carrying across the cabin with practiced projection. "I'm going to explain this once more, and then we're going to move on. First-class meal service is a premium amenity that requires verification of appropriate ticket categories. Your situation appears irregular. The pause before situation is deliberate, loaded with implication. She's not quite saying they don't belong, but she's saying it without saying it, the way 15 years of customer service has taught her to deliver insults wrapped in policy language. Marcus feels Isabella's small hand tighten in his. His daughter is 8 years old, brilliant beyond her years, but still young enough to believe that adults are fundamentally fair. She's learning otherwise in real time, and it's breaking something inside him that he wasn't sure could break anymore. 6 months ago, when cancer took his wife after a 2-year battle, Marcus thought he'd experienced the worst pain imaginable. Watching Sarah suffer through treatments, holding her hand during the final weeks, explaining to Isabella why Mommy couldn't come home anymore, that had been agony. But this is different. This is watching innocence die in his daughter's eyes while a stranger teaches her that some people will hate her for reasons she can't control or change. Victoria, he says, reading her name tag with deliberate emphasis. I need you to be very clear about something. Are you refusing to serve my daughter the meal she ordered because you believe we don't belong in first class? It's a lawyer's question, the kind that corners the defendant and forces them to commit to a position. Marcus didn't build a billion-dollar company by accident. He knows how to ask questions that expose truth, how to create moments where people reveal exactly who they are. Victoria's response proves she's not nearly as smart as she thinks she is. I'm refusing to serve meals to passengers who can't demonstrate legitimate access to premium services, she says, her chin raised with defiance. If you have a problem with that policy, you're welcome to file a complaint after we land. She turns slightly, playing to the audience of first-class passengers like an actress working a crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. Some people don't understand that first class is an earned privilege, not an entitlement. The statement is a masterpiece of coded language, the kind that gives her plausible deniability while making her meaning crystal clear to everyone listening. But Victoria has made a crucial miscalculation. She assumes the audience shares her prejudices. Diego Martinez, still live streaming from seat 3B, shakes his head in disgusted amazement. Folks, you're hearing this in real time. A senior flight attendant just said that first class is an earned privilege while refusing to serve an 8-year-old black girl her meal. The view count is now over 12,000 people watching this happen live. His commentary is calm, factual, and devastating. Diego built his marketing company by understanding how messages spread, how narratives develop, how public opinion shifts. He recognizes that Victoria is creating a viral moment that will define her for the rest of her life, and she has no idea it's happening. Sarah Thompson, holding her 5-year-old son closer, speaks up again with growing anger. This is insane. My child got his meal without any questions, without any verification. He's 5 years old. He's not earning anything. He's just hungry, same as her. Victoria's mask slips further. Ma'am, different passengers have different circumstances. I'm sure you understand. No, I don't understand. Explain it to me. The challenge hangs in the air. Victoria realizes she's been backed into a corner where she either has to explicitly state her racial bias or find a way to retreat. She chooses the worst possible option, doubling down. Some passengers purchase appropriate tickets through legitimate channels. Others find ways to access services they haven't properly paid for. We have procedures to verify which is which. Marcus's voice drops to a whisper that somehow carries more authority than any shout. Are you accusing us of stealing these seats? I'm suggesting that your presence in first class requires verification that other passengers don't need. Based on what criteria? Victoria gestures, vaguely realizing too late that she's about to say the quiet part out loud. Based on appropriate passenger profiles for this service level. Appropriate passenger profiles. Marcus repeats the phrase slowly, letting it hang in the air. Please define what makes a passenger profile appropriate for first class. The trap is perfect. Biz. Victoria can either admit she's profiling based on race, or she can try to create some other explanation that won't hold up under scrutiny. She chooses racial profiling. Passengers who fit the demographic that typically utilizes premium services, she says, apparently believing that academic language makes bigotry more palatable. Isabella, who has been listening with the serious attention that children bring to adult conversations they don't fully understand, looks up at her father. Daddy. What's a demographic? The question is innocent, devastating perfect. An 8-year-old asking for clarification about why she's being discriminated against live on social media, witnessed by thousands. Marcus kneels down to meet Isabella's eyes, speaking loudly enough for the cameras in the cabin to hear. A demographic is a way of grouping people, sweetheart. Some people think that how you look determines what you deserve. But that's not true. What you deserve depends on how you treat others and whether you're kind and honest. He stands looking directly at Victoria. My daughter is kind and honest. She asked politely for food she was promised. She said please and thank you. She's been patient and respectful. According to the values I'm teaching her, that means she deserves to be treated with dignity. Victoria's face is flushing deeper now, a combination of anger and the dawning realization that this situation is spiraling beyond her control. She can hear murmurs from other passengers, see phones pointed in her direction, feel the cabin atmosphere turning against her. But Victoria Sinclair didn't climb to senior flight attendant status by backing down from confrontation. She got here by being beautiful enough to get noticed and aggressive enough to get promoted. She spent 15 years perfecting the art of using her appearance and her authority to get what she wants from men and to intimidate people she sees as beneath her. Sir, I've explained our policies multiple times. If you continue to be disruptive, I'll have no choice but to contact airport security and have you removed from this aircraft. The threat is explicit now, designed to frighten Marcus into compliance. Victoria has used this tactic dozens of times before, usually against passengers who couldn't fight back, who wouldn't risk the hassle and expense of being thrown off a flight. She has no idea she's just threatened to have the owner of the airline removed from his own plane. Lisa Rodriguez, the junior flight attendant who's been watching from the galley with growing horror, finally makes a decision that will save her career and define her character. She steps forward with a meal tray in her hands. Excuse me, Victoria. I have Isabella's chicken nuggets meal right here. I'll serve it now. Victoria whirls on her colleague with fury. Lisa, I told you to return to your station. I'm handling this situation. The child ordered a meal. We have the meal. I'm going to serve it. You're out of line. No, Lisa says, her voice gaining strength. I think you are. The moment crystallizes everything wrong with the situation. A junior Hispanic flight attendant, recognizing injustice and finding the courage to act, while a senior white flight attendant abuses her authority to target a black family. The optics are terrible for Victoria, but she's too angry to recognize the danger. Lisa, if you serve that meal against my direct instructions, you'll be written up for insubordination. Then write me up. Lisa steps around Victoria and approaches Isabella with a warm smile. Hi there, sweetheart. I have your chicken nuggets with apple slices and a chocolate chip cookie. Is that okay? Isabella looks uncertainly between Lisa and Victoria, sensing the tension but not understanding the power dynamics at play. Is it okay, Daddy? Marcus nods, his voice tight with emotion. It's perfectly okay, baby. Thank you, Lisa. You're very welcome. Enjoy your meal, honey. Victoria's face is now bright red with humiliation and rage. She's been openly defied by a subordinate in front of passengers and cameras, her authority undermined by someone she considers beneath her in every way that matters. Lisa, you're suspended effective immediately. Return to the galley and remain there for the duration of this flight. I understand, Lisa replies calmly. But I'm not apologizing for feeding a hungry child. The exchange is captured in high definition by multiple cameras live-streamed to thousands, and it's already being clipped and shared across social media platforms. Flight 447 is trending nationally now, with Feed the Child and Lisa Rodriguez gaining momentum as supporting hashtags. Isabella carefully opens her meal container, her small fingers working around the edges with the concentration that children bring to important tasks. The chicken nuggets are shaped like dinosaurs. The apple slices are fresh and crisp, and the cookie is bigger than her palm. Thank you, she says to Lisa with genuine gratitude. Then, looking up at Victoria with the fearless honesty of childhood, she adds, "Would you like to share my cookie? It's really big." The offer is pure, innocent, devastating. An 8-year-old trying to share her food with someone who's been cruel to her because that's how she's been raised, because her father taught her to respond to hatred with kindness. Victoria stares down at Isabella for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. For just an instant, the mask slips completely and everyone watching can see the exact moment when she realizes what she's become. But instead of apologizing, instead of showing grace or humility or basic human decency, Victoria makes the choice that will follow her for the rest of her life. "Keep your cookie," she says coldly. Some people earn their food. Others just take what they're given. The cruelty is breathtaking. Speaking to an 8-year-old that way, rejecting an innocent offer of kindness with calculated meanness, revealing the depth of her contempt for a child whose only crime is existing while black. Marcus's control finally cracks. Not into rage, not into violence, but into the kind of cold authority that builds billion-dollar companies and destroys careers with a single decision. "Ma'am," he says, his voice carrying a new edge that makes several passengers sit up straighter. "I want you to understand something very clearly. You have just spoken to my daughter in a way that is unacceptable, unprofessional, and I would argue actionable. I want your name, your employee ID number, and the name of your supervisor." Victoria laughs a sharp, contemptuous sound. "Sir, you can file all the complaints you want. I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know exactly who my company protects and who they throw under the bus. Good luck with your complaint." The confidence in her voice is absolute. She's been getting away with behavior like this for years, protected by management that doesn't want to deal with discrimination complaints, shielded by policies that favor employees over customers in most disputes. She has no idea that she's about to learn exactly who her company protects when the person filing the complaint owns the company. Marcus reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone. Not to call anyone yet, not to reveal anything yet, but to document what's happening for the comprehensive investigation that's about to begin. "Isabella," he says quietly, "I want you to eat your meal and try to enjoy it. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for taking up space you belong in." Isabella nods solemnly, taking a bite of her dinosaur nugget. But she's not the same little girl who boarded this plane 30 minutes ago. She's learning lessons about the world that no 8-year-old should have to learn, developing defenses that no child should need. Victoria watches this interaction with growing irritation. In her mind, she's won this confrontation by establishing her authority and putting these passengers in their place. She doesn't recognize that she's actually lost everything: her career, her reputation, her future in the airline industry. But she's about to find out. The plane's engines reach full power as they taxi toward the runway. In 3 minutes, they'll be airborne. In 40 minutes, they'll land in Atlanta. And somewhere in between, Victoria Sinclair is going to discover that actions have consequences, especially when those actions are witnessed by 18,000 people and counting. Diego Martinez adjusts his phone angle to capture both Victoria and the family, his live stream commentary becoming increasingly urgent. Folks, what we're witnessing here goes beyond simple discrimination. This is a master class in how prejudice operates in professional settings, how authority can be weaponized against the vulnerable. His audience agrees. Comments are flowing faster than he can read them, but the themes are consistent. Outrage, support for the family, demands for consequences. Screenshots are being shared. Contact information for SkyLine Airways is being posted, and somewhere in corporate headquarters, social media monitoring systems are starting to ping with alerts about a developing crisis. Victoria doesn't know about the brewing storm because she's too focused on maintaining her authority over passengers she sees as challenging her rightful place in the hierarchy. She adjusts her uniform one more time, checks her reflection in the galley window, and prepares to continue her power trip once they're airborne. She's about to learn that some passengers are more than they appear, and some confrontations change everything. 37 minutes into Flight 447, Victoria Sinclair makes the decision that will destroy her life. It doesn't look like a life-altering moment. It looks like standard power assertion, the kind she's performed hundreds of times before. But this time, her target isn't just any passenger. This time, she's about to pick a fight with the wrong man. "Sir," she announces, her voice projected clearly across the first-class cabin for maximum audience impact. "I've been patient with your disruptions, but we need to resolve this situation now. If you cannot provide adequate proof that you legitimately purchased these seats, I'm going to have to ask you to gather your belongings and move to available seating in coach." The ultimatum is delivered with theatrical authority designed to humiliate Marcus into compliance or create grounds for his removal. Victoria has used this tactic before with success, usually targeting passengers who couldn't fight back, who wouldn't risk the complications of being thrown off a flight. Marcus looks down at Isabella, who's carefully eating her chicken nuggets while trying to ignore the adult conflict swirling around her. His daughter shouldn't have to witness this. She shouldn't have to learn that some people will try to diminish her simply because of her skin color. But maybe she also needs to see what happens when you stand up to bullies. "Ma'am," Marcus replies, his voice carrying a new edge that makes several passengers look up from their phones. "I need you to explain exactly which policy allows you to demand proof of purchase from seated passengers after takeoff." Victoria's confidence wavers slightly. She knows she's improvising, making up procedures as she goes, but she's been getting away with creative rule interpretation for years. "Sir, airline personnel have broad discretionary authority to ensure passenger safety and comfort. Your behavior has been disruptive and concerning." "My behavior?" Marcus stands slowly, his full height suddenly apparent. "I've been sitting quietly with my daughter. I asked for a meal she ordered in advance. When you refused to serve her, I asked for an explanation. Which part of that do you consider disruptive?" The question is calm, factual, devastating. Victoria realizes she's being recorded by multiple passengers and live-streamed to thousands, but she's too committed to her course to retreat now. "Your confrontational attitude and your refusal to follow airline procedures create an unsafe environment for other passengers," she says, gesturing toward the rest of first class as if seeking support. She doesn't get it. Instead, she gets open stares of disbelief from passengers who've witnessed the entire interaction and know exactly who's been confrontational. Diego Martinez, whose live stream has now reached 22,000 concurrent viewers, provides real-time commentary that's being shared across social media platforms. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing textbook gaslighting in action. A flight attendant is calling a passenger confrontational for calmly asking questions about discriminatory treatment. His audience is fully engaged now. Comments flood in faster than he can read them. This is disgusting. Someone needs to get fired. That little girl deserves better. What airline is this? Call the news record everything." The hashtag Flight 447 is trending nationally with supporting hashtags like airline discrimination and dignity, for all gaining momentum across platforms. Screenshots of Victoria's behavior are being shared, contact information for SkyLine Airways is being posted, and somewhere in corporate headquarters, emergency protocols are being activated. But Victoria doesn't know about the brewing media storm because she's too focused on winning a confrontation she started. She adjusts her uniform jacket, checks her hair and her phone's camera, and prepares to escalate further. "Sir, I'm going to give you one final opportunity to comply with airline procedures. Either provide adequate verification of your ticket purchase or gather your belongings for relocation to appropriate seating." The demand is absurd on multiple levels. Passengers don't carry purchase receipts while flying. First-class tickets are verified during boarding. Moving seated passengers mid-flight requires extraordinary circumstances, not a flight attendant's personal discomfort. Marcus recognizes the absurdity, but more importantly, he recognizes the pattern. This isn't about tickets or procedures. This is about a person in authority using her position to target people she doesn't think belong. Ma'am, I need you to call your supervisor to this location immediately. Victoria's laugh is sharp, contemptuous. Sir, I am the senior flight attendant on this aircraft. I am the supervisor. Then I need you to contact ground control and request that a gate agent verify our ticket information through the airline's central booking system. The request is reasonable, professional, and puts Victoria in an impossible position. She can either admit that no such verification is necessary, proving she's been harassing them without cause, or she can make the call and risk exposing herself to supervision. She chooses option 3, escalation. Sir, your demands are becoming increasingly unreasonable and disruptive. If you continue this behavior, I'll have no choice but to declare you a security threat and request emergency landing for your removal. The threat is nuclear, designed to terrify Marcus into submission. Declaring a passenger a security threat triggers federal investigations' no-fly list's potential terrorism charges. It's the most serious action a flight attendant can take, and Victoria is threatening it over a child's meal request. Isabella looks up at her father with wide eyes, not fully understanding the threat but recognizing its seriousness. Daddy, are we in trouble? Her innocent question cuts through the tension like a blade, highlighting the absurdity of treating an 8-year-old and her father as security threats for asking for promised food service. Sarah Thompson, who has been watching in growing horror, finally reaches her breaking point. This is absolutely insane, she says loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. You're threatening to have a family removed for asking for a meal. My son got his food without question. What's the difference? Victoria turns on Sarah with venom. Ma'am, I warned you to stay out of this situation. If you continue interfering, you'll be cited for passenger disruption as well. Interfering? Sarah's voice rises with indignation. I'm witnessing discrimination and calling it out. That's not interference, that's basic human decency. Other passengers begin speaking up, the tide of opinion turning decisively against Victoria. She's right. This is discrimination. The child hasn't done anything wrong. This is disgusting behavior. Someone needs to report this. Victoria finds herself facing something she's never encountered before: unified passenger opposition. Usually, her targets are isolated alone without support from other travelers who don't want to get involved. But this situation is different. The injustice is too obvious, the victim too innocent, the behavior too egregious. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria announces, trying to regain control through authority. I need everyone to return to their seats and allow me to handle this security situation appropriately. Security situation. Marcus repeats, his voice carrying a dangerous calm. Ma'am, I want you to be very specific about which of my actions constitute a security threat. Your refusal to follow airline procedures and your increasingly aggressive demands. I asked for my daughter's meal. I asked for policy explanations when you refused to serve her. I requested supervisor contact when your explanations seemed inconsistent. Which of those actions threatens flight security? Victoria realizes she's backed herself into a logical corner. Nothing Marcus has done remotely resembles a security threat, but admitting that means acknowledging that her escalation has been inappropriate from the beginning. She chooses to double down rather than back down. Sir, passengers who refuse to comply with crew instructions for any reason represent potential security risks. Your continued questioning of my authority demonstrates unwillingness to follow emergency procedures if required. The logic is tortured, desperate, and completely unconvincing to anyone listening. Diego Martinez captures every word, his audience now exceeding 30,000 viewers, as word spreads across social media about discrimination happening live on SkyLine Airways. Lisa Rodriguez, the junior flight attendant who defied Victoria earlier, emerges from the galley with obvious distress. She approaches Captain O'Brien's cockpit and knocks urgently. Captain, we have a situation in first class that requires your attention. Inside the cockpit, Captain James O'Brien is monitoring routine flight operations when his intercom crackles with Lisa's voice. He's been flying for SkyLine Airways for 8 years, long enough to distinguish between normal passenger disputes and genuine problems. What kind of situation Lisa Victoria is threatening to declare a family a security threat over a meal service dispute? It's really bad, Captain. I think we need ground control involved. O'Brien's expression darkens. Declaring security threats is serious business involving federal authorities, emergency landings, and extensive investigations. It's not something flight attendants do lightly or over service disputes. I'll be right out. Victoria doesn't see Captain O'Brien approaching because she's too focused on her confrontation with Marcus. She's reached the point where backing down feels impossible, where admitting error seems like surrender. Sir, this is your final warning. Comply with relocation instructions or be prepared for emergency security protocols. Marcus makes a decision that will change everything. Not to reveal his identity yet, that will come later, but to document every word Victoria speaks for the comprehensive investigation that's about to begin. Ma'am, I want you to repeat your threat clearly for the record. Are you declaring my 8-year-old daughter and me security threats because we asked for food service? I'm declaring you security threats because you refuse to follow crew instructions and comply with airline policies. Which instructions have we refused to follow relocation to appropriate seating? Based on what policy passenger verification requirements, which we offered to meet by requesting supervisor verification of our legitimate tickets. Victoria realizes she's being led through a logical deconstruction of her position, but she's too angry and too committed to stop. Sir, I don't have time for your word games. You will comply or face consequences. What consequences specifically, emergency landing and federal investigation for passenger interference with crew duties? The threat is now explicit on record, witnessed by dozens and live-streamed to thousands. Victoria has officially threatened to treat a child's meal request as an act of terrorism. Captain O'Brien chooses that moment to arrive in first class, his uniform immediately commanding attention and respect from passengers and crew alike. What's the situation here? He asks, looking between Victoria and the family with obvious concern. Victoria straightens, confident that her captain will support her authority. Captain, we have passengers refusing to follow crew instructions and creating security concerns. I've attempted de-escalation, but they continue to be non-compliant and disruptive. O'Brien looks at Marcus and Isabella, noting their quiet posture, the child eating her meal peacefully, the father standing calmly beside her. Nothing about their demeanor suggests disruption or security threat. What instructions were they given relocation to appropriate seating pending ticket verification? Why does their ticketing need verification? Victoria hesitates, realizing she's about to explain her reasoning to someone with actual authority to evaluate it. Their presence in first class appeared irregular. Irregular. How, based on passenger demographics, typical for this service level? The admission hangs in the air like a confession. Victoria has just told her captain that she targeted passengers based on demographics, a clear admission of racial profiling. Captain O'Brien's expression hardens. He's been flying commercial aircraft for 22 years. He's seen passenger disputes, service failures, and genuine security threats. He's never seen a flight attendant target passengers based on demographics. Victoria, I need you to step back and allow me to handle this situation. Captain, I believe I've managed appropriately according to standard. Step back. Now. The command is sharp final, leaving no room for argument. Victoria realizes that her captain is not supporting her authority. He's questioning it. O'Brien turns to Marcus with professional courtesy. Sir, I apologize for any confusion. Can you help me understand what's happened here? Marcus's response is calm, factual, devastating. He explains the meal request, Victoria's refusal, the escalating demands, the threats. He speaks without anger, without accusation, letting the facts speak for themselves. O'Brien listens with growing alarm, recognizing that his airline is in the middle of a public relations disaster that could trigger federal investigations and civil rights violations. But he doesn't know the worst part yet. He doesn't know that the passenger Victoria has been harassing owns the airline they're flying on. That revelation is coming in exactly 4 minutes. And when it arrives, Victoria Sinclair's career won't just be over. Her entire world will collapse. Captain James O'Brien has seen passenger disputes before. 22 years of commercial aviation taught him to recognize the difference between genuine problems and personality conflicts blown out of proportion. But as he listens to Marcus explain Victoria's behavior, he realizes this situation is different. This isn't a misunderstanding or a cultural clash. This is discrimination happening in real time on his aircraft. "Sir, I sincerely apologize for what you and your daughter have experienced," O'Brien says, his voice carrying the gravity of someone who understands the legal and ethical implications of what's transpired. This behavior doesn't represent SkyLine Airways' values or policies. Victoria bristles at the implicit criticism. "Captain, I followed established procedures for passenger verification and security assessment. If you review the Victoria..." O'Brien's voice cuts through her protest with surgical precision. "We'll address your version of events after we land. Right now, my priority is ensuring passenger safety and comfort." The captain turns back to Marcus with professional respect. "Sir, is there anything we can do to make the remainder of your flight more comfortable? It's a standard de-escalation approach designed to calm tensions and prevent further incident." O'Brien expects the passenger to request an apology, maybe a service upgrade or compensation for the trouble. He doesn't expect Marcus to pull out his phone and make a call that will change everything. Marcus looks at Isabella, who's finished her chicken nuggets and is quietly coloring in her activity book, trying to disappear from the adult conflict around her. His 8-year-old daughter has been humiliated, threatened, and treated like a criminal for the crime of existing while black in first class. This isn't just about them anymore. This is about every family that might face similar treatment, every child who might learn to doubt their worth because someone in authority decides they don't belong. "Captain, I appreciate your concern," Marcus says, his voice taking on a tone that makes several passengers look up from their phones. "But we're past the point where apologies can resolve this situation." He taps a number on his phone. A number he's never had to call from a passenger seat, but one that connects directly to SkyLine Airways operations control. The phone rings once. "This is Marcus Rivers, CEO of SkyLine Airways. Priority 1. I need to speak with emergency operations immediately." The words drop into the cabin like a bomb. Complete silence. Victoria's face goes white. Captain O'Brien's eyes widen in shock. Passengers stop mid-conversation. Diego Martinez's live-stream chat explodes with comments as 35,000 viewers realize they've just witnessed the ultimate plot twist. "Yes, sir, this is operations. Mr. Rivers. We weren't expecting. I'm currently on Flight 447 Miami to Atlanta. I need this aircraft grounded immediately upon landing with all crew held for mandatory review. I also need legal HR and media relations teams standing by." Victoria's legs nearly give out. She grabs the nearest seat for support, her perfectly applied makeup unable to hide the horror spreading across her face. The man she's been humiliating for 40 minutes owns the plane she's standing on. The passengers she targeted for discrimination are the CEO of the airline and his daughter. Captain O'Brien stares at Marcus with a mixture of recognition and mortification. He knows Marcus Rivers by reputation, the self-made billionaire who built SkyLine Airways from nothing, the CEO who revolutionized airline customer service, the man who signs his paychecks. Sir O'Brien stammers, "I had no idea." "You had no way to know," Marcus replies evenly. "That was intentional. I've been conducting quarterly mystery passenger evaluations for 3 years. Today's flight was supposed to assess standard service quality." He glances at Victoria, who's now leaning against the galley entrance, her face a mask of absolute terror. "Instead, I discovered that my senior staff are using their authority to discriminate against passengers based on race. Diego Martinez, still live streaming, provides breathless commentary to his audience. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just witnessed the most incredible reversal in aviation history. The man being discriminated against is the CEO of the airline. Victoria Sinclair just spent 40 minutes destroying her career while the owner of the company was recording every word. His viewer count has exploded past 50,000 as word spreads across social media. Screenshots and video clips are being shared faster than his platform can track them. Flight 447 is trending worldwide now, with news outlets beginning to pick up the story. Isabella looks up from her coloring book, confused by the sudden change in atmosphere. "Daddy, why is everyone acting different now?" The innocent question cuts through the shocked silence like a blade. Marcus kneels beside his daughter's seat, speaking softly but clearly enough for the cameras to capture. "Sweetheart, remember how we talked about some people treating others differently because of how they look? Well, sometimes when that happens, there are consequences for the people who make those choices. Is the pretty lady in trouble?" Marcus glances at Victoria, who's now sitting in a jump seat with her head in her hands. Her career and reputation destroyed by 40 minutes of documented discrimination. "Yes, baby. She's in trouble because she was unkind to us and to other people. But that's not your fault or your problem. You didn't do anything wrong." Isabella nods solemnly, returning to her coloring. In her 8-year-old mind, the adult problems are too complicated to understand fully, but she grasps the essential truth. Actions have consequences. Kindness matters. And her daddy is someone important who can make sure mean people don't hurt other children. Sarah Thompson, who has been watching this reversal in stunned silence, finally finds her voice. "Oh my God. Victoria, do you realize what you've done? You discriminated against the CEO of the airline. On camera. In front of thousands of witnesses." Victoria lifts her head, her eyes red with tears that have nothing to do with remorse and everything to do with self-pity. "I didn't know," she whispers. How was I supposed to know? The statement reveals everything wrong with her thinking. She's not apologizing for her behavior. She's upset that she targeted the wrong person. In her mind, discriminating against passengers is acceptable as long as they don't have power to fight back. Marcus stands his phone still connected to operations. "I need to speak with the CEO's executive assistant. Tell Sarah I'm implementing Protocol 7 effective immediately." Protocol 7 is SkyLine Airways' most serious internal investigation procedure reserved for incidents involving potential criminal behavior, federal violations, or threats to the company's fundamental integrity. It triggers automatic suspension of all involved personnel, comprehensive documentation of events, and external legal review. Victoria realizes she's not just losing her job. She's facing potential federal civil rights charges, industry blacklisting, and civil lawsuits. Her 15-year career in aviation is over. Her reputation destroyed, her future in the service industry terminated by 40 minutes of documented discrimination. Captain O'Brien approaches Marcus with obvious discomfort. "Sir, I want to state for the record that I had no knowledge of this situation until I was called forward. I would never have tolerated this behavior if I had witnessed it from the beginning. Captain, your response when you did arrive was appropriate and professional. This incident reflects failures in training supervision and cultural enforcement, not individual pilot performance." The statement relieves O'Brien while simultaneously indicting the broader organization. Marcus is already thinking like a CEO again, separating individual accountability from institutional responsibility. Lisa Rodriguez, the junior flight attendant who stood up to Victoria, approaches hesitantly. "Mr. Rivers, sir, I want you to know that what happened here doesn't represent how most of us feel or act. I tried to intervene when I could." Marcus nods with genuine appreciation. "Lisa, your actions today showed exactly the kind of moral courage we need more of in this industry. You'll be hearing from HR, but not for disciplinary reasons. The distinction is crucial. Lisa will be contacted for commendation and potential promotion, while Victoria will be contacted by lawyers and investigators. Diego Martinez ends his live stream after providing final commentary to his exhausted but riveted audience. Folks, we've witnessed something unprecedented today. Discrimination met accountability at 35,000 feet. This is why representation matters, why economic power matters, and why ordinary people with extraordinary courage, like the flight attendant who fed a hungry child despite her supervisor's orders, can change the world. His final viewer count, 72,000 people who watched injustice get swift, decisive consequences. Victoria finally stands her legs unsteady, her career in ruins. She approaches Marcus with desperate eyes, ready to beg for mercy she never showed his daughter. "Mr. Rivers, please, Marcus holds up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. His voice, when he speaks, carries the cold finality of absolute authority. "Ma'am, you spent 40 minutes teaching my 8-year-old daughter that some people will hate her for reasons she can't control. You used your position to humiliate a child you threatened to have us arrested as terrorists, and you did it all because you decided that our skin color meant we didn't belong in seats we paid for." He pauses, letting the weight of her actions settle. "You don't get to apologize your way out of that. You don't get to claim ignorance about consequences when you were perfectly comfortable inflicting them on others. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them." Victoria crumbles, the full scope of her destruction finally hitting her. She's not just losing her job. She's losing her career, her reputation, her future. All because she couldn't treat an 8-year-old black girl with the same dignity she automatically granted to white children. The plane begins its descent into Atlanta. In 20 minutes, they'll land. In 30 minutes, Victoria will be escorted off the aircraft by security. In an hour, she'll be suspended pending investigation. By tomorrow, she'll be terminated for cause. But the real consequences are just beginning. Federal investigations, civil rights violations, industry blacklisting. Victoria Sinclair just learned that actions have consequences, especially when those actions target the wrong person. Isabella finishes her coloring and shows her father a picture of an airplane flying through rainbow clouds. "Look, Daddy, I made the plane happy." Marcus smiles, kissing the top of her head. "You always make everything better, sweetheart." And somewhere in the cabin, passengers are learning that justice doesn't always wait for convenient timing. Sometimes it happens in real time at 35,000 feet, when quiet strength meets absolute authority. Victoria's career is over. Her reputation is destroyed. Her future is ruined. And she has no one to blame but herself. The wheels of Flight 447 touch down at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with a gentle thud that signals the end of what will become one of the most documented discrimination incidents in aviation history. As the aircraft taxis toward Gate B-24, Marcus Rivers ends his call with SkyLine Airways Operations Control and looks out the window at the unusual activity surrounding their arrival gate. 3 black SUVs idle near the jet bridge. Corporate security personnel stand in crisp suits, their earpieces and serious expressions identifying them as executive protection. A cluster of people in business attire check tablets and phones with the urgent energy of crisis management. In the distance, news vans are already arriving, their satellite dishes extending toward the sky like technological antennae sensing a breaking story. Isabella presses her face to the window, watching the commotion with 8-year-old curiosity. "Daddy, why are there so many people waiting for our plane?" Marcus gently adjusts her seatbelt as the aircraft comes to a complete stop. Sometimes, when important things happen, lots of people need to know about it so they can help fix problems. "Are you going to fix the problem with the mean lady?" "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to other little girls." Captain O'Brien's voice crackles over the intercom with unusual formality. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at Atlanta International Airport. However, we're going to have a slightly modified deplaning process today. Please remain seated until instructed by crew members. The announcement triggers immediate concern from passengers who recognize that modified deplaning usually means security issues or emergencies. Phones come out again as people text family members and post updates about delays. Victoria Sinclair sits in her jump seat near the galley, no longer the confident authority figure who dominated the first hour of flight. Her perfect makeup is smeared from tears, her immaculate hair shows signs of stress, and her fitted uniform now seems like a costume for a role she no longer plays. She stares at her hands, occasionally glancing toward Marcus and Isabella with the desperate hope that somehow this nightmare might be reversible. The aircraft door opens, and the first person to board is Sarah Chen, SkyLine Airways' Executive Vice President of Human Resources. She's flanked by 2 corporate security officers and carries a tablet loaded with preliminary reports from the Operations Control Center. Sarah approaches Marcus with the deference due to someone who signs her paychecks and the concern of someone who recognizes the magnitude of this crisis. "Mr. Rivers, sir, I'm here to ensure this situation is handled with complete transparency and accountability." Marcus nods, appreciating the efficiency of his team's response. "Sarah, I want comprehensive documentation of everything that happened on this flight. Every passenger who witnessed these events should be interviewed if they're willing. The live stream footage needs to be preserved as evidence, and I want a complete review of Victoria Sinclair's employment record, training history, and any previous complaints. Already underway, sir. Legal is reviewing potential federal violations. Media Relations is preparing statements, and we have investigators standing by to interview all crew members." Marcus stands helping Isabella gather her coloring books and ensuring her small backpack is secure. "Good. But Sarah, I want to be very clear about something. This isn't about damage control or protecting the company's reputation. This is about accountability and ensuring it never happens again." "Understood completely, sir." Lisa Rodriguez, the junior flight attendant who showed moral courage by serving Isabella's meal despite Victoria's orders, approaches hesitantly. "Mr. Rivers, sir, I know I probably should have done more to stop what was happening. I'm sorry I didn't act sooner." Marcus's expression softens. "Lisa, you did exactly what we need more people to do. You saw injustice and found the courage to act. That's not something to apologize for. Will I be in trouble for disobeying Victoria's instructions? You'll be receiving a commendation for outstanding moral courage and a promotion review within 30 days. Lisa's relief is visible, her shoulders dropping as she realizes that doing the right thing will be rewarded rather than punished. It's a message that will spread quickly through SkyLine Airways' employee network. The company stands behind workers who choose justice over hierarchy. Victoria finally summons the courage to approach Marcus, her legs unsteady and her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Rivers, please, I need you to understand." Marcus holds up a hand, his expression calm but final. "Ms. Sinclair, you're going to have opportunities to explain your behavior to investigators, attorneys, and potentially federal authorities. Right now, my priority is getting my daughter off this aircraft without further trauma. But I didn't know who you were. I was just following. You didn't know who we were, and you decided that meant you could treat us however you wanted. That's exactly the problem. The exchange is brief, devastating, and witnessed by remaining passengers who are documenting everything on their phones. Victoria's attempt to excuse her behavior only reinforces how fundamentally she misunderstands the situation. Diego Martinez, still recording, captures the final interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing the last moments of Victoria Sinclair's aviation career. Her inability to understand that discrimination is wrong regardless of the victim's identity tells you everything about why this happened. Corporate security approaches Victoria with professional politeness that can't disguise the seriousness of her situation. "Ms. Sinclair, we need you to come with us for immediate debriefing and suspension procedures." Victoria looks around the cabin, desperately seeking support from colleagues or passengers who might validate her position. She finds none. Captain O'Brien won't meet her eyes. Lisa Rodriguez looks away. Passengers stare with mixtures of disgust and pity. "This isn't fair," she whispers, as security escorts her toward the aircraft door. "I've worked here for 15 years. 15 years of perfect service. One incident, and you're destroying my career." The comment reveals her continued refusal to accept responsibility. In Victoria's mind, 40 minutes of documented discrimination constitutes one incident that shouldn't affect her perfect service record. She still doesn't understand that her behavior was fundamentally wrong, regardless of consequences. Sarah Chen makes notes on her tablet as Victoria is led away. Her initial employment record review shows 3 previous complaints about inappropriate comments to minority passengers. All were filed as interpersonal conflicts and resulted in verbal counselings rather than disciplinary action. Marcus's expression hardens. 3 previous complaints that were buried by inadequate investigation procedures. How many other passengers has she treated this way? We're conducting a comprehensive review of all passenger complaints involving Ms. Sinclair over the past 5 years. Preliminary numbers suggest at least a dozen formal complaints and potentially dozens more incidents that weren't reported. The scope of Victoria's pattern becomes clear. This wasn't an isolated incident or a bad day. This was standard behavior from someone who used her authority to target passengers she didn't think deserved respect. Isabella tugs on Marcus's sleeve as corporate personnel continue their discussions. "Daddy, can we go home now? I want to tell Grandma about the airplane ride." Marcus lifts his daughter into his arms, recognizing that she's been patient and brave through an ordeal no child should face. "Absolutely, sweetheart. Let's go see Grandma." As they move toward the aircraft door, passengers begin standing and applauding. Not for Marcus as a CEO, but for the dignity he showed under pressure and the justice he delivered for every traveler who's ever faced discrimination. Sarah Thompson, the mother who spoke up during the confrontation, approaches with her 5-year-old son. "Mr. Rivers, I want you to know that watching how you handled this situation taught my child something important about standing up for what's right. Thank you." Other passengers offer similar comments. "You handled that with incredible grace. Your daughter should be proud of her father. Thank you for making sure this has consequences. This gives me hope that things can change." The impromptu testimonials are captured by multiple cameras and will soon spread across social media platforms as evidence that ordinary people recognize injustice and appreciate accountability. Outside the aircraft, news crews are setting up equipment while reporters prepare for what they're calling the discrimination herd round the world. Victoria's behavior, Marcus's response, and the immediate consequences are already being analyzed by legal experts, civil rights advocates, and industry professionals. Marcus pauses at the aircraft door, turning back to address remaining passengers and crew. His voice carries the authority of leadership and the weight of someone who recognizes the historical significance of this moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, what happened on this flight today should never have occurred. But I want you to understand that SkyLine Airways will use this incident to become better. We'll implement training programs that ensure every passenger is treated with dignity. We'll create reporting systems that take discrimination complaints seriously. And we'll build a culture where moral courage like Lisa Rodriguez showed today is valued and protected." He glances toward the gate area where Victoria is being processed by security and investigators. Actions have consequences. Discrimination has consequences. And from this day forward, anyone who works for this airline will understand that treating passengers differently because of their race, religion, or appearance will result in immediate termination. The statement is calm, definitive, and will be quoted in news reports for months to come. Marcus Rivers has just publicly committed his company to standards that go far beyond federal minimums. As they step off the aircraft, Isabella waves goodbye to Lisa Rodriguez, who smiles and waves back with tears in her eyes. The 8-year-old doesn't fully understand the significance of what she's witnessed, but she knows that kind people helped her and mean people faced consequences. The jet bridge leads them toward a terminal buzzing with media attention and corporate activity. Victoria Sinclair's career is over. Her reputation is destroyed. Her actions have triggered investigations that will reshape airline industry practices. But more importantly, a little girl who faced discrimination learned that dignity matters, that justice exists, and that her father will always fight to protect her, right to take up space in a world that might try to diminish her. The consequences are just beginning. Federal investigations will follow. Civil rights organizations will demand broader reforms. Other airlines will examine their own cultures and procedures. And Victoria Sinclair will learn that 40 minutes of documented discrimination can destroy a lifetime of professional achievement. Some lessons come with permanent consequences. This is one of them. 2 weeks after Flight 447 landed in Atlanta, Marcus Rivers stands before a packed conference room at SkyLine Airways headquarters, addressing the largest gathering of senior executives, department heads, and union representatives in the company's history. The mahogany-paneled room, normally reserved for quarterly earnings calls and board meetings, now serves as the command center for what will become the most comprehensive cultural transformation in aviation history. The wall-mounted screens display sobering statistics. 27 passenger complaints involving discriminatory treatment over the past 3 years, 78% of which targeted passengers of color, and a pattern of inadequate investigation and resolution. What happened to Isabella isn't an isolated incident. It's the tip of an iceberg that threatens everything Marcus built his company to represent. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus begins, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. We're gathered here because SkyLine Airways failed. Not just in one incident, but in creating a culture where that incident was possible. He clicks to the next slide, showing screenshots from social media where Flight 447 has been shared over 2 million times, making it one of the most viral discrimination incidents in business history. The world is watching how we respond to this failure. Our passengers are watching. Our employees are watching. Our competitors are watching. And most importantly, every 8-year-old who might fly with us in the future is watching to see if we learn from our mistakes. Sarah Chen, the Executive VP of Human Resources, presents the investigation findings that paint a damning picture of institutional neglect. Victoria Sinclair's behavior wasn't anomalous. It was enabled by training programs that emphasized authority over empathy, supervision that protected employees over passengers, and investigation procedures that buried complaints rather than addressing root causes. Victoria Sinclair has been terminated for cause, Sarah reports. But terminating one employee doesn't solve a cultural problem that allowed her behavior to continue for 15 years. The room is silent as executives confront the scope of changes required. This isn't about updating a training module or revising a procedure manual. This is about fundamentally reimagining how a major corporation treats people. Marcus unveils the Dignity First initiative, a comprehensive program that will reshape every aspect of passenger interaction. Immediate changes include all customer-facing employees completing 40 hours of bias recognition and cultural sensitivity training within 60 days. New zero-tolerance policies for discriminatory behavior with immediate termination for violations. Passenger advocate positions at every major hub to investigate complaints in real time. Monthly mystery passenger programs using diverse teams to identify and address service disparities. The Training Revolution partners with leading civil rights organizations to develop programs that go beyond legal compliance to address unconscious bias, cultural competency, and moral courage. Every employee, from baggage handlers to senior executives, participates in scenarios designed to recognize and interrupt discriminatory behavior. Technology implementation includes new passenger feedback applications allowing real-time reporting of discrimination incidents through mobile apps. GPS-enabled complaint tracking ensures rapid response and follow-up. Video monitoring in key areas provides objective documentation of passenger interactions. Cultural accountability features monthly town halls where employees can anonymously report discrimination concerns, whistleblower protections for staff who report inappropriate behavior by colleagues, performance evaluations that include dignity and respect metrics alongside traditional service measures. The scope is unprecedented in the airline industry, but Marcus recognizes that half measures won't rebuild trust or prevent future incidents. Some of you are thinking, this is expensive. He addresses the room. You're right. Comprehensive cultural change costs money. But discrimination costs more. It costs us passengers reputation, legal settlements, and most importantly, it costs us our soul as a company. The financial projections are sobering $47 million over 2 years for training upgrades and new personnel. But the cost of inaction is higher potential federal fines, civil lawsuits, and brand damage that could destroy decades of growth. Lisa Rodriguez, the junior flight attendant who showed moral courage on Flight 447, has been promoted to Director of Cabin Culture, a new position designed to ensure dignity in passenger service. Her first initiative, peer mentorship programs where experienced crew members model appropriate behavior, while new hires learn to prioritize passenger comfort over hierarchy enforcement. When I served Isabella her meal against Victoria's orders, Lisa tells the assembled executives I wasn't being rebellious. I was being human. We need to train our people to choose humanity over hierarchy every single time. The transformation extends beyond SkyLine Airways. Other airlines, recognizing the public relations and legal risks of discrimination, begin implementing similar programs. The Department of Transportation announces new federal guidelines for investigating bias complaints. Civil rights organizations praise the comprehensive response while maintaining pressure for continued accountability. But the most significant changes happen in smaller moments that don't make headlines. Gate agents greeting every passenger with the same warmth regardless of appearance. Flight attendants checking on unaccompanied minors without making assumptions about their family's economic status. Customer service representatives investigating complaints with the assumption that passengers deserve dignity rather than skepticism. Marcus establishes a $10 million fund for organizations combating discrimination in travel and hospitality, with Isabella helping to select recipients. The 8-year-old who sparked this transformation becomes a symbol of resilience and dignity, her story inspiring children and adults to speak up when they witness injustice. The Isabella standard becomes shorthand for the principle that every passenger should be treated with the respect due to a beloved child. Training materials ask employees, would you be comfortable treating your own daughter this way? 6 months after Flight 447, the numbers tell a story of genuine transformation. Discrimination complaints down 87% across all SkyLine Airways operations. Customer satisfaction ratings reaching all-time highs. Employee retention improving as workers take pride in their company's values. Passenger diversity increasing as word spreads about inclusive service. Victoria Sinclair's termination triggers broader industry consequences. Her aviation certifications are revoked following federal investigation. Other airlines quietly blacklist her from employment consideration. Her LinkedIn profile disappears. Her social media accounts go silent. The discrimination that she thought would remain a private interaction between herself and powerless passengers becomes a case study taught in business schools, diversity training programs, and ethics courses. Her name becomes synonymous with the dangers of unchecked bias and the importance of treating every person with dignity. But the most profound changes happen in the lives of individual families who no longer fear discrimination when they travel. Black families book flights without anxiety about how they'll be treated. Hispanic children request special meals without worrying about rejection. Asian businessmen sit in first class without having their tickets questioned. The industry transformation extends internationally as foreign airlines examine their own practices and implement similar reforms. The Flight 447 standard becomes a benchmark for dignity in aviation, with international civil aviation organizations recommending comprehensive bias training and accountability measures. Marcus receives hundreds of letters from families sharing their own experiences with discrimination and expressing gratitude for the changes. Children draw pictures of airplanes with rainbow passengers. Parents write about feeling safe to travel with their families for the first time. But perhaps the most meaningful feedback comes from airline employees themselves. Crew members report feeling proud of their jobs again. Customer service representatives describe the satisfaction of solving problems rather than creating them. Senior staff talk about company culture that finally matches the values they wanted to uphold. The financial investment proves worthwhile as passenger loyalty increases and positive word-of-mouth drives unprecedented growth. SkyLine Airways becomes the preferred airline for diverse travelers, corporate accounts seeking inclusive service providers, and families who value dignity over discount pricing. The transformation isn't perfect or complete. Changing deeply entrenched cultural patterns takes time, patience, and constant vigilance, but the commitment is real. The progress is measurable and the standard is clear. Every passenger deserves dignity, respect, and service that treats them like beloved family. Victoria Sinclair's 40 minutes of discrimination created consequences that will last for decades. Not just for her career and reputation, but for an entire industry that had to confront the gap between stated values and actual practices. Sometimes change requires crisis. Sometimes progress demands a price. Sometimes justice comes with permanent consequences for those who choose hatred over humanity. The sky is safer now, not just from mechanical failure or weather hazards, but from the human prejudice that can make travel traumatic for passengers whose only crime is looking different from people in positions of authority. Isabella Rivers, now 9 years old, flies regularly with her father on business trips. She's greeted by crew members who know her story, treated with warmth by staff who understand what dignity looks like, and served meals without question or hesitation. She's learning that the world can be fair when good people refuse to accept injustice, that actions have consequences, that courage creates change, and that sometimes a little girl asking for chicken nuggets can transform an entire industry. 6 months after Flight 447, Isabella Rivers skips through the familiar corridors of Atlanta International Airport, her small hand secure in her father's larger one. She's wearing a yellow dress today, bright and cheerful against the gray terminal walls, and carries a new backpack decorated with cartoon airplanes. The same excitement that sparkled in her eyes during their first trip together has returned, but now it's tempered with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing she belongs wherever she chooses to stand. "Daddy, do you think Miss Lisa will be working on our plane today?" Isabella asks, her voice carrying the hopeful curiosity of a 9-year-old who's learned that some adults can be trusted to be kind. Marcus smiles, adjusting his pace to match his daughter's smaller steps. "I don't think so, sweetheart. Miss Lisa works on different flights now, training other flight attendants to be as nice as she was to us. They're flying to Miami for a long weekend, just the two of them, continuing a tradition that began with trauma but has transformed into joy. These father-daughter trips have become sacred time opportunities to create new memories that gradually overshadow the painful ones from that first flight." As they approach Gate C-12, coincidentally the same gate where their journey began 6 months ago, Isabella notices the changes that have become normal throughout SkyLine Airways operation. The gate agent, Maria Santos, greets every passenger with genuine warmth, kneeling down to meet children at eye level and asking about their travel plans with authentic interest. "Good morning, Isabella," Maria says, recognizing the little girl who has become something of a celebrity among SkyLine Airways employees. "Are you excited about your trip to Miami?" Isabella nods enthusiastically. "We're going to visit the aquarium and see the dolphins. Daddy says they're really smart like me. I bet they are. And I bet you're going to have the best time ever." The interaction is simple, natural, unremarkable, exactly what it should be. No hesitation, no second guessing, no assumptions based on appearance or perceived social status. Just one human being treating another with dignity and respect. Marcus watches this exchange with quiet satisfaction, recognizing how far they've all come. The changes at SkyLine Airways weren't cosmetic or temporary. They represented a fundamental shift in culture, values, and priorities that has made travel safer and more welcoming for everyone. Boarding begins with the usual announcements, but Marcus notices subtle differences that reflect the company's transformation. The crew introduces themselves by name and expresses genuine appreciation for passengers choosing their airline. There's warmth in their voices, authenticity in their smiles, and careful attention to ensuring every traveler feels valued. Isabella and Marcus take their seats in row 2, the same configuration where their ordeal began. But today feels different. Today feels like flying should feel exciting, comfortable, and free from the anxiety that discrimination creates for families of color. The senior flight attendant on today's flight is Jennifer Walsh, a veteran crew member who completed the new dignity training 3 months ago. Jennifer approaches Isabella with the kind of natural warmth that good people extend to children without thinking. "Hi there, sweetheart. I'm Miss Jennifer. Is this your first time flying with us?" Isabella shakes her head solemnly. "No, Daddy and I fly together all the time now. But last time wasn't very nice because a mean lady was working. Are you nice?" The question is direct, honest, and heartbreaking in its simplicity. A 9-year-old shouldn't have to wonder if airline employees will be kind to her, but Isabella's experience taught her to evaluate adults' intentions before trusting them. Jennifer's expression softens with understanding. She's heard about Flight 447 every SkyLine Airways employee has. The incident has become part of their training, a reminder of what happens when authority is used to diminish rather than serve. "I am very nice," Jennifer says gently, "and my job is to make sure you have a wonderful flight. Are you hungry?" "We have chicken nuggets shaped like sea creatures today." Isabella's face lights up with delight. "Like dolphins." "Exactly like dolphins. And octopi and seahorses, too. Would you like me to bring you some?" "Yes, please, Daddy. She's nice, like Miss Lisa was." Marcus feels something ease in his chest, a tension he didn't realize he was still carrying from their traumatic experience. His daughter is learning to trust again, to expect kindness rather than cruelty, to move through the world with confidence rather than defensive caution. As the plane taxis toward the runway, Marcus reflects on the journey that brought them here. 6 months ago, Isabella learned that some people would hate her for reasons she couldn't understand or control. But she also learned that her father would protect her, that good people would stand up for what's right, and that actions have consequences. The transformation at SkyLine Airways has exceeded his expectations. Passenger satisfaction scores have reached record highs. Employee retention has improved dramatically. Discrimination complaints have dropped to near zero. But more importantly, the company's culture now reflects the values he intended when he founded the airline: dignity, respect, and service that treats every passenger like family. Victoria Sinclair's termination sent shockwaves throughout the industry, creating accountability standards that have improved air travel for everyone. Her behavior has become a cautionary tale taught in business schools and ethics courses, a reminder that discrimination carries permanent consequences in a connected world where injustice can be documented and shared instantly. But Marcus takes no satisfaction in Victoria's downfall. His focus remains on building something better, creating environments where incidents like Flight 447 become impossible rather than inevitable. Jennifer returns with Isabella's meal served with the same care that would be given to any passenger's child. Isabella examines her dolphin-shaped nuggets with scientific curiosity before taking a careful bite. These taste like happiness, she declares, causing both Marcus and Jennifer to laugh. "That's exactly what they're supposed to taste like," Jennifer replies. As the plane reaches cruising altitude, Isabella settles in with her coloring books while Marcus reviews emails on his tablet. but his attention keeps drifting to his daughter, marveling at her resilience and wisdom. She's processing their experience in the healthy way that children do, learning from it without being defined by it, growing stronger without becoming hardened. Daddy, Isabella says, suddenly looking up from her coloring, "Do you think that mean lady learned to be nice to other little girls?" The question cuts straight to the heart of everything they've been through. Marcus considers his answer carefully, wanting to be honest without destroying his daughter's faith in people's capacity for change. "I hope so, sweetheart. Sometimes when people make really big mistakes, they have to learn hard lessons about being kind. I don't know if she learned or not, but I know that because of what happened to us, lots of other people learned to be nicer." Isabella nods thoughtfully, processing this complex truth about justice, consequences, and redemption. "I'm glad other little girls won't have mean ladies on their airplanes," she says finally. "Me too, baby. Me too." The flight continues peacefully, uneventfully, exactly as it should. Isabella colors pictures of underwater scenes while Marcus works on emails. Jennifer checks on them periodically, bringing juice and cookies without being asked, treating them with the natural courtesy that should be standard for every family. As they begin their descent into Miami, Isabella presses her face to the window, watching the city grow larger beneath them. The blue ocean sparkles in the afternoon sunlight, promising adventures ahead and washing away the last shadows of their painful experience. "Daddy, I love flying with you," Isabella says, reaching for his hand. "I love flying with you too, sweetheart. And now we get to do it without worrying about mean people because we helped make sure the nice people are in charge." Isabella smiles with the satisfaction of someone who understands at 9 years old that she played a role in making the world a little bit better. Her dignity under pressure, her innocent questions that exposed adult prejudice, and her father's protection of her rights created changes that will benefit countless families. The plane touches down smoothly at Miami International Airport. As they taxi to the gate, Isabella gathers her belongings with the efficient movements of an experienced traveler. She's no longer the uncertain 8-year-old who wondered if she belonged in first class. She's a confident 9-year-old who knows that dignity is her birthright, not something she has to earn from strangers. As they prepare to deplane, Jennifer stops by their seats one final time. "Isabella, it was wonderful having you fly with us today. I hope you have a magical time in Miami. Thank you for being nice to me and my daddy. Some people aren't nice because of how we look, but you were nice because of who we are." Jennifer blinks back tears at the wisdom contained in such a simple statement. "That's exactly right, sweetheart. How someone looks on the outside doesn't matter. What matters is the kindness in their heart." Isabella nods solemnly, then brightens. "Want to see the dolphin I colored for you?" She hands Jennifer a carefully colored picture of a smiling dolphin wearing a flight attendant's cap. The drawing is signed, "For Miss Jennifer, who is nice like dolphins," in Isabella's careful 9-year-old handwriting. "This is beautiful, honey. I'm going to put it in my crew bag so I can remember you on every flight." As they walk through the jet bridge, Marcus reflects on how completely their story has changed. 6 months ago, they left an airplane feeling humiliated, angry, and traumatized. Today, they're leaving with smiles, gratitude, and renewed faith in human kindness. The airport bustles with the usual travel energy, families reuniting, business travelers rushing to connections, vacationers starting new adventures. But Marcus sees it differently now. He sees an industry that learned to be better, a structure that chose accountability over comfort, and a future where his daughter can move through the world with confidence rather than caution. Isabella skips beside him, her yellow dress bright against the terminal's gray walls, her spirit unbroken by hatred and strengthened by justice. She's learned that dignity doesn't require permission, that courage creates change, and that sometimes a little girl asking for chicken nuggets can transform the world. They exit into the Miami sunshine, ready for their weekend adventure, carrying with them the knowledge that actions have consequences, kindness matters, and justice doesn't always wait for convenient timing. Sometimes it happens at 35,000 feet when quiet strength meets absolute authority. Sometimes it changes everything. And sometimes it ensures that other children will never have to learn what hate looks like from someone in uniform. The sky is safer now. And Isabella Rivers, 9 years old and dressed in sunshine yellow, helped make it that way. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that dignity matters, and that one voice can change everything, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button to show that you stand with families like Marcus and Isabella. Subscribe to this channel because we're committed to sharing more stories where justice wins and courage creates change. And please share this video with someone who needs to see that discrimination has consequences and that speaking up makes a difference. Together we can build a world where every child can ask for chicken nuggets without having to prove they belong. Thank you for watching, and remember, your voice matters. Your dignity is non-negotiable, and sometimes the quietest strength creates the loudest change.